February 14, 2020 was a bad Valentine's Day for students in government-owned universities, as lecturers announced a 4-week warning strike, disrupting academic activities across the country. The 4-week strike was extended by 8 weeks, as contained in a statement by the ASUU leadership on March 14, 2022. The lecturers are protesting unpaid earned allowances, university revitalization funding, as well as the operationalization of the University Transparency and Accountability System, UTAS, which is a payment platform designed by the lecturers.
That will waste too much time.
At the resumption of negotiations with the government in March, the ASUU leadership told the federal government that they wanted action and not promises.
Nigerians want to see action. The students want to see action. My members want to see action. I also believe the general public want to see action.
Although the Labour Minister had assured the striking lecturers of the government's determination to end the strike, the universities remained shut almost 3 months after. All hopes of reopening the universities were again dashed, as ASUU extended the strike for another 12 weeks.
Let's welcome the Honorable Minister.
At this news conference on the National Productivity Day in Abuja, the Minister of Labour and Employment said the government had not given up on its reconciliation efforts.
The work is ongoing. Professor Nimibrig have given an interim report to the Ministry of Education. I requested for certain things to assist him do his work. From my understanding, the Ministry of Education is addressing the request from Professor Nimi Briggs.
ASUU embarked on one of its longest strikes in 2020, crippling academic activities for a whole session. Many fear a repeat in terms of the longevity of that industrial action and hope that the ongoing impasse will be resolved quickly to prevent a situation where students will again lose another academic year.
Is it a standoff? That's one of the questions to put to Professor Abiodun Ogunyemi this morning, who is former president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, to help us understand what the issues are, especially now that there's been an extension. Thanks for joining us this morning, Prof. Well, there is, you've seen what the students are doing, and of course, all kinds of talk from the side of government, various officials of government saying one thing or the other and trying to put, and of course ASUU also adding voice, but the students themselves are talking. What are your perspectives, first of all, about all that is happening? Maybe we'll begin by asking, has there been any overture from government to ASUU directly since the announcement made to extend the strike?
Thank you, Ayo, and good morning, Nigerians. We actually want to thank Channels. Let me thank Channels on behalf of our union, and particularly on behalf of the president of ASUU, for putting this conversation in perspective. You have actually kept tracking this crisis in the education sector, particularly in the university system. To answer your question directly, I would say no. The government has not made a direct overture, to the best of my knowledge, except they reached out to the president last night. But we all know this game of deception that has been going on, and I'm happy your reviewer this morning, the lady who did the newspaper review, actually helped us to prepare the foundation for this conversation. You see, the Nigerian politicians, they have been playing games. They have been playing games with us. They have been playing games with Nigerians. They have been playing games with Nigerian youths. And that is why you hear them today saying we are engaging them, we are talking. And when they say we are talking, what they actually mean is that we just want to keep them busy, pretending that we are solving the problem when there are no concrete deliverables. As far back as 2017, when we started this negotiation on the 4 key issues, funding, condition of service, investor autonomy and academic freedom, and other matters that relate to having qualitative university education in Nigeria. We were on that trajectory for 4 full years, and it was never ending. Now I heard that the Labour Minister was saying that the Mimi Briggs Committee has submitted some preliminary reports. What is in that report? It is empty. When you talk of collective bargaining, it is not about consulting individuals in the ministry. It's about government putting together a team, briefing the team, giving the team a clear mandate to arrive at a proposal that government will review. And if government has any objection to any part of the proposal, government will express it. We'll also take that same proposal to our members. If our members approve, then we bring back to the negotiating table and we sign. That is what we have been doing since 1992. That is the spirit of collective bargaining. But what our members saw in the new approach to this, because this is the longest negotiation we have had in our history. 5 years, more than 5 years now. They've kept us talking. And what they want to do is they want to dribble Nigerian scholars until they leave office. And our members have seen through them. And that is why they are insisting that until and unless we have concrete deliverables, we have a signed agreement, and implementation commences, they are not going to back down on this strike action. Of course, our comrade in the Ministry of Labour, he calls himself a comrade. The Minister of Labour, Dr. Senator Chris Ngige, I think he has done his worst. He stopped our members' salaries, and we think that is ill-advised and, of course, counterproductive. But let's wait and see how far that takes them. That is where we are.
Prof, the big question most Nigerians are asking, which our newspaper reviewer this morning also asked, is where does the vehemence leave the students? You know, when the proverbial elephant fights, it's the grass that suffers. So if we look at federal government's commitment made last year in the payment of earned academic allowance and revitalization fund, would ASUU be willing to concede while government tries to look up ways to source funds to solve this problem?
Thank you very much. I think there is a misconception about the struggle of ASUU. The struggle of ASUU is a mission to rescue Nigeria. If you want to destroy a country, you will attack its education, because education is actually the foundation for any transformation whatsoever. If we are going to make progress with our security, we are going to make progress with our economy, we are going to make progress with our with corruption, we must go back to education. You see, when you say that it's about looking for money to address ASUU's demands, I think we are misunderstanding the issues. We're actually watering it down, watering the main issue down. We want to rescue Nigerian education because what the ruling class is doing in Nigeria is to systematically destroy the education sector. And if you want to destroy the foundation for development, you attack the intelligentsia. The ruling class in Nigeria has drawn a battle line with Nigerian intelligentsia, and they have seen them as their enemies. Whereas, when they talk about development partners, they should be looking to the universities. They should not be thinking of those with some technical school certificates that come to Nigeria because they are white-skinned and they are in suit. They see them as development partners. We have given this example before. We were at the presidency in 2013. There was a problem with the air conditioner. The person they brought in to fix it was a white person. Can you imagine? Something the graduate of our technical college to be able to fix. But we have destroyed the public primary, the public secondary. What the ruling class is attacking now is the public universities and public tertiary education in general. I think Nigerians should see this perspective that ASUU is bringing to the table. If each time they say there is problem with the Nigerian academics, people will just reduce it to paying salaries, addressing some aspect of revitalization. Whereas there is a big gamut which we have presented within our negotiated agreement document that government needs to look into and make a commitment. You see, when they say people quickly move to area of funding that government alone cannot fund education. We have not said that. We have not said government alone should fund education. We have come up with proposals on how to fund education. We have in our agreement. And when people say 2 elephants fight, it's not about 2 elephants fight. Our youth, our children, because we also have children among them. As I speak, my children are at home. The president's children are at home. My colleagues' children are at home. There are those who have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children who are back home because of this action. But what we are saying is we need to salvage this country. This country is drifting. All of us are talking about drifting. You have just done in your review a critical analysis of what is going on in Nigeria. The Nigerian politicians are taking us for a ride. At what point do we put a stop to this drift? If they are doing it in economy and we are looking on, if they are doing it with corruption, we are looking on, if they are doing it with process of development, we are looking on. We cannot afford to do it with the universities.
Okay, well,
we are doing this for historical reasons, so that in the future, nobody will say when Nigeria was being destroyed.
But the issue, Prof, at the end of the day, the issue is around funding. And that's that's why anyone would say, okay, it's just money that ASUU wants. Perhaps that understanding needs to also be communicated effectively to people. For instance, one of the responses that the Federal Ministry of Education has put out through its Director of Press and Media Relations is that the money coming from TED Fund is also money coming from government. Do you think that is a fair argument?
TED Fund has been around at least since 2011. As TED Fund made the desired impact. TED Fund was supposed to be a support or intervention agency. TED Fund is not expected to be the main source of funding of capital projects in Nigerian universities, for God's sake. But go to public universities now, federal and state. You only see TED Fund and niche assessment funds, driving the capital projects up to 90-something%. In fact, state universities are worst because they are regarded now as TED Fund universities. But they are not making the desired impact. Ayo, let me shock you. As you are aware, please go and look at the manifesto of the ruling party. They said they will give 15% to education in their manifesto each year. But since they came to power, budgetary allocation has been sliding. They made probably about 9%. They reduced to 8. It became 7. It became 6. The last one was 5.4. So is that how to say we are serious about education? And let's put all the cards on the table. When you look at the demographics, you find that there is no way we will commercialize education. We will not worsen the conditions of the Nigerian people. More students will drop out of school.
Just 1 second. We'll come to that. We'll come back to the commercialization because there are those who are arguing that, look, free education is not realistic because, I mean, Nigeria clearly cannot afford it, at least from what the federal government has been saying. But you talked about other sources of income, other sources of funding education. You have talked about needs avenues. You've talked about TET Fund, which is one of those avenues. They are all coming from government one way or another, aren't they?
No. You see, the ideas we are talking about were also our proposals. Whether you talk of TET Fund, we proposed it. That the private sector, which absorbs products from the universities, they should make inputs. And that was how we arrived at the 2% profit tax that we have in TET Fund. The needs assessment you are talking about, that arose from our original proposal to government. When we had the last agreement in 2009, we estimated what we needed to fix the problems in our universities, the rot and decay. And we came to about 1.5. But government said they didn't believe what we were doing. And they set up a federal government needs assessment committee that went around over 70 universities in Nigeria, public universities, state and federal, and came back with damning reports. And government first scandalized, and they saw the need to arrive at a figure on what they need to do over a period of 6 years. And that was how they came to that 1.3 trillion. So what we have been having now are just what I would call snippets of what we have in that report. If government had been serious in implementing the report faithfully as expected of them, by now, we should have repositioned our universities back to what we had in the 70s and 60s. That was the trajectory we were going, and we were able to attract foreign students. We were able to charge foreign students. And Nigerian education, particularly university education, was competing globally. That is the way to go, and that is where we should be going. So when you say funds coming from government, we have said government should fix our universities so that our universities can do cutting-edge research. Then we can come up with innovation and inventions that could be patented. This is when you see some of these universities abroad. I visited Finland way back 2003. The headquarters of Nokia was at the University of Uvascular. And there was this triple helix going on there. I saw that one in action, not the story. Students from the Department of Engineering were doing their practicals in the industry. And so assignments that were given were resolved with practitioners there on the field. And so you could imagine what would be going back into the universities from the inventions and joint projects that they were doing. So universities were being funded through active participation in the industry, and the profits that came from those efforts were reinforcing service delivery in the universities. And that is the way to go. Triple helix. We can't talk of research and development. It is research that drives the development of any country. We can't talk about that in Nigeria with the current state of our universities. Let government fix our universities. Let government challenge our scholars. Let's give them an enabling environment so that they can deliver on their mandates. And they will do what they do when they leave this country.
All right, Prof, let's investigate, the TET Fund thing raised by my colleague a bit further. You have picked funds in that being, funding from government as well. But then again, TET Fund in saying yesterday that 1.1 billion had been released to federally owned institutions. But it also raised concern that some of the projects in those institutions are non-performing. I have had, some students say to me that in some federally owned institutions that they don't have lab coats, they don't have tools for science practicals in the university. Give us a sense of how some of these projects are being handled. Who are the contractors? If ASUU is demanding accountability from the federal government, let's have some accountability from ASUU as well.
Well, in the first place, The funds we are talking about are not given to ASUU. They are given to universities. Universities are run or managed by governing councils. Vice chancellors drive the day-to-day activities on campuses as administrators. So, in the first place, ASUU is not to be blamed if there are deficiencies with service delivery or with performance of projects sponsored by TED Fund. So ASUU has no blame about that. But let me tell you this. TED Fund will have to look inwards into its model of project monitoring and evaluation. We saw this gap. In fact, 2 years ago, we participated, or 3 years ago, we participated in the impact assessment of TED Fund project. But we got to a point that we could not go further because some things were not transparent enough. Some things are not transparent enough. So TED Fund will have to look in-house. If projects are imposed from Abuja to campuses, if contracts are negotiated with administrators of universities, if the process of monitoring are not open to the end users, then there are gaps that will need to be filled. And those gaps, we have proposed, let me land, please.
Okay.
We have proposed a model that we use in needs assessment projects. In needs assessment project for every campus, we have budget monitoring committee. We propose that to TED Fund, but TED Fund is there to embrace it. And what is that model about? The model is about all staff unions, including student union, will be brought together to look at what comes into the university, how we want to allocate the funds to projects, the process of procurement and contract awards. And at the end of the day, everybody will have a say in the project, right from conception to the delivery. And so, we think that's a transparent model, but TED Fund is there to embrace it.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait for TED Fund to respond to that one. But along the line, the question of whether or not government has been doing one thing or the other has come up. This is what Dr. Chris Ngige had to say about some of the things that had been done by government so far.
There is a renegotiation going on in the Ministry of Education towards the 2009 agreement, which stipulates that you review their condition of service. You review everything, including the revitalization and everything. Let's know where we are. They have done that. In education, I set up the committee. I forced the education to speed it up last year. They finished it, and they said, every side, go back to your principal with this proposal we have, so that your principals will look at it. Look at you can call it draft agreement, you can call it proposal, but there are no signatures there. Nothing, nobody signed. So the education side, which is Professor Monzelli committee, Monzelli, because that negotiation is headed always by a pro-chancellor, who is usually chairman of pro-chancellors. Like now, Benoni Briggs is heading it. They came back and budget and planning, National Salary Incomes and Wages Commission, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Education, National Universities Commission, 4 of these government agencies were in that committee as advisors or observers. And they pointed out to them and said, this proposal will not fly in government because the government doesn't have the means to start adjusting salaries of university teachers and by 180%. Right.
Minister, you paint
so this is it. Like, no. So what is happening now? We are giving them 6 weeks. Okay. We gave Bedoni 6 weeks. I'm waiting for their report from Education. Minister of Education has to transmit it and say this is what we have agreed. Of course, you also transmit to the President Committee on Salaries.
When will 6 weeks end?
The 6 weeks is ending by this Friday.
By this Friday?
Yes. So I'm calling everybody up by next week.
What then happens if status quo remains?
Well, the law says that once we start conciliation, that the Minister of Labour has apprehended. The law says that if it goes to Industrial Arbitration Panel, which is where I'm supposed to refer this matter to, if my conciliation fails, or the National Industrial Court,
You want to react to this, Prof?
Thank you very much. The almighty Minister of Labour, who decides who to kill and who to keep alive, he has done his worst. I mean, what else can he do apart from stopping, after stopping people's salaries? But the 2 or 3 issues have come out from what he said. You know, I started by saying their strategy is to keep them talking. This renegotiation, I said earlier, started 2017. 2017 to now, how many years? And you think Nigerian scholars cannot see through them? He said they should do a report, bring back to him. He will talk. He will now present the report at one salary review committee that he's a member. All those ones are tactics. We have never done it like that. Once you have a government committee, as I explained earlier, we sat, and for 4 full years, we came out with that draft report that he was talking about. If we took that report to government, what we expect government to say is, we disagree on 1, 2, 3 issues. Can we come back and look at them? And that was what we expected to do, not to propose another something that will take to Labour Minister will take to FEC, Labour Minister will take to... When they were reviewing the salaries of people at Central Bank, people at the SEC, and people, in some of these blue chip corporate entities, who were they going to? Were they coming to the Labour Minister? You see, we have been engaging Labour Minister, and we have seen through him that he believes that for 5 years, we are not going to achieve anything. And unfortunately, when we started the negotiation, somebody told us that, well, we should not expect any concrete results, because they are talking about 6 weeks now. When that committee was inaugurated in February 2017, the Minister of Education gave that committee, the negotiation committee, 6 weeks. I'm sure 6 weeks from then till now we have not yet exhausted 6 weeks. So we don't really take what they are saying seriously again, because we know, we have seen through their cavalier attitude, we have seen that they have made up their mind to detract, to degrade, and probably to destroy the academia. However, we owe it a duty. Not to allow that to happen because of posterity. Like I said earlier, if you want to destroy any country, you attack its education. If you want to degrade the development or remove the basis for the development of any nation, you attack its intelligentsia. And that is what this ruling class is doing. See them now. They are pretending nothing is happening. Everybody is doling out 100 million as if you are doling out 100 naira. And they were running over them, rushing over themselves to obtain presidential nomination forms. Is that the basic problem we have in this country? Is that the ultimate? Is that the most fundamental? Presidency. Presidency to what? Nobody has come out with a clear agenda on how to fix our education. And let me give you one other dimension to this discussion. Because Nigerians need to see through this ruling class. At a time they are reducing budgetary allocation to education, both federal and state governments are proliferating universities. Does that speak well of people that mean well for the country? They don't mind the quality of education they give to the poor people because their children are not here. The Minister of Labour will say, my children schooled here. But that is not enough. What percentage does it represent among the ruling class? So people do things maybe to make some points that will probably push them within the push or increase their political profile.
Another thing stands out from Prof, let me just come in there. One of the things stands out from what the Minister of Labour said. He said 180% is not realistic, and government clearly told ASUU that. What's your reaction to this? And what would be realistic if ASUU were to, you know, concede in the negotiation process?
Well, my sister, please, I'm not in a position to tell you what is realistic. Because if we are to go there, we will have to talk about what is the African average, or even what is the West African average. How do other countries treat their scholars? You are talking about 180%. What is the 180%? By what percentage? What is the inflation rate in the country? So if anybody is saying that ASUU is coming with an unrealistic proposal, how does that compete or compare with what they pay people in NCC, with what they pay people in Central Bank, with what they pay people, you know, in some of these, they are blue choice or high-profile corporate entities that are owned by government. You never know the salaries of people working in NIDA. You never know the salaries of people working in Central Bank. You never know the salary, and so many other places. The universities produce those who work in those sectors.
Yeah, just one other issue so that we can... Yeah. What must give for ASUU to return to school? When you talk of what is acceptable, please, let me make this point. So when you talk of what is acceptable, it has to be arrived at the negotiating table. And that is what they have been dodging. For which reason, which is what this question is about, Prof, because that renegotiation committee has sat, according to the minister, and of course ASUU has said that they're not going to be a part of any renegotiation anymore. So what exactly should we expect now? How do we move forward from here? What must give if ASUU is to return to school so that students can go back to school?
Please, Ayo, that is misinformation. ASUU has never said it will not be part of any further negotiation. ASUU has never said that. In fact, we have met the British committee and he presented their findings. I was saying earlier that what they did from our own analysis was not correct. They went outside the principles of collective bargaining, which I explained earlier. Government has constituted a team. Government should brief the team. Government should tell the team what they expect. And if any proposal is brought to government, government is free to say, we cannot go this far. This is how we can go. And then we come back to the table. If there's a need for shift, that is collective bargaining. Not going to
just to be clear. Just to be clear, Prof.
Who we know?
Yes, just to be clear, Prof. ASUU is still interested in sitting down with government on this matter, yes?
Sure.
Under what circumstance or conditions? Under what conditions would that happen? Because we understand initially that when this renegotiation committee was set up, ASUU was like, look, we're not going to be a part of any renegotiation anymore. So under what condition will ASUU sit with government again?
I think we need to get some things clear. ASUU is saying that there is a proposal before you. Before you call us for any meeting, come up with your own reaction to the proposal. That has not happened. If they say ASUU is proposing what percentage has government come up with? I think that is the issue. Negotiation is about engagement. If a team has just been going around to meet individuals who we know that they have their fixated anti-ASUU sentiments, are we going to allow that to derail us so that for 6 years we achieve nothing? No country does that, and you don't do that with intellectuals.
Well, we have to thank you. There are so many other issues to raise, but Prof, you know, it's always a delight talking to you, and at least the passion is clear and everyone would want students to go back to school. I want to believe that government is as passionate as well. Otherwise, what are we doing here? Professor Abiodun Oguyemi, former president of ASUU, thank you so much for being a part of our conversation this morning.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.